Hello, welcome everyone to the Bcamp podcast. I am Richard Carey, the host, and today we have with us Mark Fidelman, who is the CMO of SmartBlocks. So we're super excited to have you here with us today, Mark. Thank you for joining.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
And to get started, maybe tell us a little bit about SmartBlocks. What are you guys up to? What is SmartBlocks?
Yeah, so SmartBlocks is a real estate tokenization platform. So anything with a title deed essentially will tokenize, put on the platform, and help you raise money for it. And that could be a tokenized debt offering or an equity offering or a mix of the two. So investors from around the world. Best part about it is, of course, there's a secondary market for tokens, just like crypto, but it's not crypto. It's an actual security. And you'd be crazy not to come and take a look.
Awesome. Very cool. This is exciting to see all the innovations coming with blockchain and real estate. So great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you end up at SmartBlocks? Like, what is your journey?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a long one. I've been in crypto for a long time. And I was first a Bitcoin denier. I really didn't get the crypto it didn't make any sense to me until Ethereum came out. And then I'm like, oh, programmable money and a platform for all this stuff that you could put on a blockchain that can't be controlled by any corrupt government or, a government that's does what it wants to do to you. And then I'm like, I get it. And I was all in at that point. Now started down the crypto road, brought some companies public, participated in a lot of marketing with those companies, as well as other companies that I really have experience in crypto, e-commerce, and SaaS are like my three big areas. But I've now gravitated more to combining two of those, which is SaaS and it's not crypto. I mean, I'll explain the difference. It's tokenization, which is just taking securities and putting them on the blockchain, and everything is tracked and transparent and legal. But it's just a token representing a security as opposed to a meme coin that represents nothing. And I know a lot of your audience might have invested in this, but most people lose 99% of the time. So my journey was, I saw the writing on the wall. I saw what was going to happen with crypto. It was going to have to be legalized. And the legal version of crypto is tokenization.
Got it. Very cool. And what advice would you give to people trying to get into crypto right now or blockchain technology right now? There's always been ups and downs. I'm sure you've gone through a few of the bull bear markets. But
even tokenization, as safe as it is going to have ups and downs, just like any financial market. And crypto's a little wilder. If you think of it as a roller coaster, where tokenization is more follows something like real estate, where it goes up slowly, then down slowly, then it's much, if you understand the financial term of beta, the beta is probably a 1, maybe a 2, or crypto could be a 10 or 15. And most of the crypto projects are not worth it. I mean, if you're investing outside the top 50 tokens, you're probably taking more of a risk than you need to. And I for one, have kind of foregone any investment in crypto except for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Ripple. Those are the only ones I think that I understand well enough to invest in. I'm not saying, so don't send me any flame mail. I'm not saying there aren't other projects that aren't great. It's the ones that I know and I understand best. But I do understand tokenization really well. And then that comes down to the underlying security that's been tokenized. That's where you determine if it's a good investment.
Yeah, I like that. And in terms of like people looking to work in the blockchain industry, like how did you get into blockchain, and what would you tell people that are looking to sort of crack into the industry?
Yeah, you did ask that, didn't you? So
that's okay.
What I would look at, if let's say I'm getting out of college right now, and my son is in college, so I have this discussion with him anytime. There's like 3 areas that I would focus on. They'll all 3 be rising tides. One would be robotics. The other one would be AI, and the third one's blockchain. These are all massive revolutions in industries that are controlled by bureaucrats or controlled by big corporations. And all 3 of these are going to upend the institutions and companies as we know it. Now, a lot of them will adopt it, so it won't matter to them. But us as individuals coming out of college, You want to be in one of those three industries. And of course, there's more. I don't mean to denigrate any other industry. I'm just saying the top three I know of that I'd be focused on. My career advice would be pick one of those three and go all in.
Got it. I like it. And so within SmartBlocks, when you guys are looking to hire people,
Yeah.
what are you looking for?
Well, first of all, we want people that understand what the blockchain is. I'm not expecting a lot of them to understand tokenization, even though it's simple. It's like a stock, but it's tradable on the blockchain as opposed to some institution or like NASDAQ, which is a conglomerate of institutions. So that's all it is. But yeah, first would be an understanding of it. Second would be, somebody that's really hardworking. Gen Z gets a bad rap, I know, because parents like me coddled our kids. I don't have a child like that, fortunately, but I know a lot of people that do. And there's been a reputation that's gone around about Gen Z. So work your butt off. Don't expect, much out of the gate. You got to prove yourself. And if I see that kind of willingness and I see that kind of attitude, those two things, put you far above the pack that I've seen so far.
Yeah, that's interesting. I sometimes question whether hard work will be as important for the next
Right.
generation. Because with all the innovations with AI
Mhm.
and how it can do some of the work, it can't do all of the work, but it can
Yeah.
definitely, like if you're coding and stuff, it can do some of the work for you. That it's
Right.
going to come down more to the choices you make. And obviously, like there's gonna be some threshold of like, yeah, you can't be a complete lazy person. But I do question sometimes, like if it's gonna be as important in the
It is. I'll tell you why. So first of all, I remember this discussion with the internet. When the internet first came out, it knocked down so many barriers that a lot of the things that existed back then just don't exist anymore, including newspapers and Blockbuster video. We've all heard these stories. Well, AI is going to do the same thing. All it's going to do is knock out a lot of things that a lot of businesses and a lot of people that are doing things that AI could do better. But all that does is give us a higher base to work from. So what we're thinking of today in terms of AI and how it helps us today won't be tomorrow. So tomorrow will be, okay, we have this AI base. So what killer stuff can we do now that's way beyond our current thinking at this point? And that's what AI, robotics, and blockchain on the financial side, how do you finance everything? But AI and robotics are going to do. Imagine a sea of robotic workers and AI, and then you saying, you and I today would never think about building a spaceship to Mars, but in 10 years, why not, right? So that's an extreme example. But if you have this AI, you have this workforce, then you could do amazing stuff. And that still requires a lot of work on your part. You're not just going to simply tell the robot or AI, you want to build a rocket company. It's not that simple. There's all sorts of parts and supply chain issues, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going to happen. But they'd be able to build it. So you'll probably need less people for what you want to do. There'll be a lot more entrepreneurs, and there'll be a lot of things that are helping society in big ways. So everyone coming out of college, myself included, wanted to change the world. Now you're going to be able to.
So yeah, I think that makes sense. And how I interpret this a little bit is that I think you have to have directed hard work. Because I think, again, like thinking back several hundred years, hard work meant like just going and working in the field. And it was very, very much sort of like a sacrifice because people, you don't necessarily want to go work in the field, and it
Right.
takes a lot of willpower. Whereas
Yeah.
I think if you have a purpose and you're motivated, then the hard work maybe might be easier actually. So anyway,
Well, I will use your analogy, and I think I wasn't clear enough. The farm brought on machinery like tractors and plows and all this stuff. Now it's all basically automated. Well, what do
mhm.
those people do? They didn't continue to work on the farms. They went out and did even cooler stuff or white collar stuff. And so it allowed them with that base to do even more innovative things. And that's what I'm talking about is all the stuff that we have a lot of people employed to do will be freed up, and those people will be able to do even more cooler stuff. But I don't see, some people have predicted that work stops entirely and we just have robots and AI doing it. I'm not in that camp. I just think because you have a base like that, there's going to be a lot of entrepreneurs that want to do even push the limits of what we're even thinking today. That's possible.
Yeah, and this is interesting, and at the risk of going down a complete rabbit hole on this, which
That's
we
what
may
the
or
show
may not
was.
want to.
It's not called Rabbit Hole.
Yeah, maybe I should rename the show. And this idea of like, hey, if AI took a lot of the required work that we need to do, you think, does it really make the human race happier to then go push technology further, or should we shift our focus more towards building relationships or something? Again, this is a very meta question. But I'd be curious to get your thoughts on it, and then we can talk about something else.
I haven't thought about the human side of it. How does it change human interaction? And certainly, a case could be made that it'll be worse because now we could design a robot that, is a yes robot. Instead of a yes man, you have a yes robot. And so I see some people preferring to be around their robots, just like some people prefer to be around their dogs and cats. So maybe, I hope not. I think we're all humans and we want to connect with other humans, and that's what makes us happiest overall. Not everybody, but that's a good question. You already hear complaints about Gen Z not being able to look you in the eye and have a decent conversation, which to me is scary because you do need other people in order to get things done in your future, even if there is AI and robots. The AI is only as good as what it can see out there and everything that it can search and do and be programmed to do. I don't think I haven't seen an application where it's inventing new things out of thin air because it's not studying, to my knowledge, it's not studying human nature, and it's not human itself. So how would it relate to what's going to make human nature better? We're not there yet. Maybe we get there. That's a scary thought, but I think eventually we'll have sentient AI, and then let's see what happens then.
Yeah, then maybe it will be about connecting with the sentient AIs.
Well, maybe our brains get downloaded into a robot. I mean, who knows? Anything's possible. I've had many arguments with people. I have an AI podcast. This is why I get to talk to cool people.
Yeah.
And I've had many people that have said, oh, we're 25 years away from, passing the, the Turing test. I said, no, we're not. We're probably 5 or 6 years from that. And sure enough, how rapid AI's evolved. I mean, I'm wondering if it's even 5 or 6 years where you'll be able to talk to an AI and figure out if it's human or not. I don't know if you've used Chat GPT audio. Have you used that yet?
I haven't used the audio yet.
It's really good, actually. Like, you can't tell it's not another person. You could tell it's AI. This is because it's not quite, it's too polite, and it's not quite human enough, but it sounds like a human, acts like a human, even delays its speech, changes its inflection. Scary good. And that's today. Imagine 5 years from now.
Yeah,
and it makes sense. Wild. I mean, you tell it to act like a psychiatrist. It's freaking good. It understands everything, right? It supposedly read all the psychological materials and case studies, and it's popping it right back at you, asking you questions. Damn good psychiatrist for those of you paying cash for psychiatrists.
Free nugget right there. Save the audience a bunch of money, potentially, or completely mess them up, one or the other. But.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I don't know how much it remembers. I know they've got a memory function, but how much it remembers, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I like that. And bringing it back a little bit to SmartBlocks, I'm curious on this thread of like human connection is how you think about the culture on your team. And I'd be curious, are you guys in person or remote, and how does that play?
Yeah. Is it okay if I swear a little bit on the show?
Sure.
All right, we have a no asshole rule. So for me, it's we all have to get along. egos, everyone's got a little bit of ego, but it can't get in the way of your work. And you should be self-aware enough to understand that, you're having a bad day and, you didn't treat everyone the way they should have been treated. But so that's the kind of culture I like. I like self-motivated, driven culture, not people that I need to talk about every day. Oh, here's what I want you to do today. Those people don't exist in our world. You've got a goal and a task, and you've got a plan that you've agreed to at the beginning of the month, and that's what you're going to execute on. And if you're falling behind, you'll let me know in our weekly scorecarding meeting, or any of the meetings that we have throughout the week. But our team is remote since we're international, and so it's even more critical that they be self-motivated and self-starters.
How long have you been on a remote team? I'd be curious to hear about like that transition. And
it's been off and on, I'll tell you, because I'm like a fractional CMO. I've had gigs where I've been on site and some that are off site, and the ones that are on site, I think, are better teams because you take them to lunch and you're doing things socially, which some people get cringy over. I don't. So what was the question again?
Yeah, just any thoughts or experiences about the transition from in-person to a more remote team?
Well, for me, I'm suited for it because I get more done if I don't have all these distractions. Because in the office, there's, I like to joke around and I like to, socialize with people. I like to get to know people around me, and that just takes me away from my work. So I think the best approach is like what some of the companies are doing now, which are hybrid, 3 days in the office, 2 days outside of it. And you always plan for your like hardcore focus strategic work, while you're alone in your office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. And yeah, and maybe a similar thread. I think we talked about this a little bit before, and you mentioned like the next generation being able to just have a conversation with somebody. One of the areas that I'm interested in is networking. And
Yeah.
I think you mentioned like you have never gotten a job in any other way than the networking in a previous conversation. So I'd be curious if you have any experiences like or thoughts about how the next generation can approach networking.
Well, are they in college or out of college?
Let's say I like that demographic of someone who's just graduated from college.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping you would have started before then, whether you're part of a fraternity or sorority or clubs are big. But internships, you should have been doing internships while you were in college. But let's say you didn't do any of that. Now you're out of college and you're wondering why you're not getting a job. Well, what I just mentioned is part of the reason. You got to build relationships before you need them. And that entails reaching out to people, asking for them to be your mentor, or doing something in particular for them, like reaching out to companies you want to work for, reach out at the director or VP level, and give them some insight about your demographic if you're part of their demographic, or give them something that they normally wouldn't get, and don't charge for it. Just be gracious with your time. Maybe you're doing maybe you've got a blog, or maybe you've got a YouTube channel, an Instagram channel, and you want to interview some of these people. For me, that's still a strategy I do to meet executives is I'll go and interview them, kind of like what we're doing now, and I might get some work out of them in the future. So networking is key, but focused networking. Like, don't just network to network. You want to make sure that you're in, for me, it would be one of the three areas I mentioned: robotics, AI, or blockchain. Networking in that group and seeing what comes of it, because usually it does. But at first, you're going to give. And maybe 3 months, 6 months down the line, somebody will remember you because you gave them so much, and they'll say, hey, there's a job opening. Why don't you come take a look at it, and I'll put in a good word for you. Because there's nothing like somebody at the company saying, hey, I've seen this person's work. I know it's good. Let's hire him over the 500 other candidates that applied blindly. So when I talk about networking, that's what I mean, is having a pre-existing relationship at some of the companies you want to work with, because it'll give you a huge advantage.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm I totally agree with the networking idea. And I just love to talk to people because I learn as well. And it just
Right.
helps me do better work. So I love that. And any experiences come to mind from a job of when you were looking for a job or people who
Well,
have.
it was a different world back when I was looking for jobs. Let's say my fractional CMO work. I do a lot of social media posting about the areas I'm focused on. So that's like an AI podcast, a crypto
Mhm.
podcast, business marketing podcasts. I put out a lot of content, a newsletter, and that attracts people coming to me. So I don't need to go to them anymore. But you got to build up this community or audience around you. And the bigger that becomes, especially if they're engaged, you'll have so many opportunities coming at you, you won't know what to do. So that's like a very advanced plan. You see some YouTubers that have figured it out, whether they're doing fashion or makeup or on the gaming side for guys, and they just crush it because they're building these huge audiences, and then all these opportunities come their way. The problem is it can be very expensive to do unless you're shooting like 1 minute videos, and there's a lot of AI editing tools that we should recommend on here that just do the editing and B-roll for you. These are incredible. But anyway, those are things I would do to attract people that are interested in you.
Yeah, interesting. So have some good content, basically, like create content and then build an audience.
You got it. I mean, build that audience and make sure, though, the key is an audience of people that could hire you to do something you'd want to do. You know, if you're doing fashion and you have no interest in getting a job in fashion, to me, you're wasting your time unless you're still living with mom and dad and they're cool with it.
And they're cool with it. That's a big if. But yeah, no, this has been awesome, Mark. Any other thoughts or questions that you have before we wrap up here?
I would say, I'm speaking to people in their 20s and maybe myself in my 20s. Just master something, master anything that's of value to people, and don't get discouraged because it's not happening to you now. In my generation, nothing happened now. When the internet came along, it started happening a lot quicker. With AI, it's even quicker. But that's not how careers in life work because people occupy these positions typically. But the more you become valuable, the more you master a subject that nobody's better than you, or you're better than 99% of the people, work will find you and you will get hired and you will command a lot of money. So in your 20s, when you have the time, get it done then. And then once you master one subject, then go to the next. Don't try, we all have 50 tabs open on our browser, at least I do. Don't have 50 tabs open in your head. Have one, two, or three. I'm talking career wise, maybe three, but one or two that you're mastering, become the best at that. Money will find you.
Wow, I love that. We'll definitely quote you on that one. Don't have 50 tabs open in your head. I think that's very relatable and
Mhm.
makes me feel a little ashamed right now looking at my browser window. But
Tell me about it. I mean, it's your browser window, so it's not. But your head is different, right? You can't have 50 things you're doing and wondering why you don't have a great job. You're too scattered. I don't care who you are. Focus on become the best at one or two things.
yeah, no, I love that, and I think when I think about this, I like to think about who I am serving as well. And so, like the more specific I can get with my audience, I'm like, man, I really want to help small business owners use their data more effectively. And then that gives me a strategy where I can go master data visualization or, you know, whatever that ends up being. So, but
Well,
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. It's been a real pleasure chatting, and thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you next time.